Ba-da-da-bum-bum. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. It's raining. Yes. We got to do a walk in the rain tonight. Zeffy was not impressed. I was having fun. I love it when it rains. But welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1635. Oh, we get to cross that one off. Tonight we're talking about what are you reading? Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite topics. I love to read. And there's lots of benefits to reading, and you can read in different ways. You can read physical books, you can read ebooks, you can listen to books. I call that reading. I don't know about you, but I call it reading when you listen to books as well. And for me, I am such a bookaholic. I have boxes and boxes of books that have not yet been unpacked. I've been in the house now 7 months and I still haven't unpacked all my books because I have no bookcases to put them on. So I am, when I'm going through the boxes, I open up one and I'm like, oh, another box of books. But it's interesting because I'm finding books I haven't read for a long time, and I love to reread books. If it's a really good story or a really good nonfiction book, it will get read multiple times. And there's times that I am like wandering around and something somewhere will prompt me to go, oh, that's right. What book was it that I read about this particular scene or read about this particular fact? And then it's going to bug me for the next few days until I find out. And over the next few days, as my brain's working on what book was it, I'm sitting there going, what book are we watching? What book? And little bits of the book scene, that particular scene in the book, come back into focus again. Eventually I figure out what the book is, and then it's sort of like, okay, now I have to go reread that book to find out how they got into that situation in that scene, and then what happened afterwards, or what that fact was. Did I get it correct, and things like that. So books are awesome. I love books. And the reason I'm talking about this one is because I just got, this past weekend, I went and cleared out my mailbox, and there was a package there for me from a very dear friend of mine. And I opened it up and I did the unwrapping of the gift on video for her and sent it to her. And she thought that was such a cool way to be able to be there with me as I unboxed her gift. And what was inside were 2 books. This is one of the ones that was in there. It's Sherlock Holmes. This one is a centenary celebration, and it's got it's got lots of different facts about the different Sherlock Holmes stories in here. There's even like posters from the books and everything. Really, really cool book. So that's one that I'm going to be reading. But the one I'm actually going to start when I finish now, when I read, I will have up to 5 books on the go at any one time. And people are like, how can you do that? It's just the way my brain works. My brain likes variety. It likes variety in different things. Like, I like variety in movies. I like variety in books. And sometimes it's sort of like I get to a certain point in a book and I'm like, yeah, I really don't feel like reading that one right now. And I go and pick up another one. Yet I can keep track of where I am. And that's why it's only limited to 5. Because if I go any more than 5, I'll probably forget where I'm up to in the different books. But this was the other book, the original illustrated Sherlock Holmes, 37 short stories and a complete novel from the Strand magazine by Arthur Conan Doyle. Now this is, and I got to show you these are really cool. Look at this. This is written as it was in the Strand in the 2 columns, and it has the original ink work in here as well, which is really, really cool. So I can't wait to sit down. I've never read a Sherlock Holmes book before. I've seen movies on Sherlock Holmes, and I've seen different movies in that. My favorite Sherlock Holmes movie, which was nothing to do with Arthur Conan Doyle, is based on the theory that that Sherlock Holmes was not as smart of a detective as he's made out to be in these books. The actual brains behind Sherlock Holmes is Dr. Watson. And the movie is called Without a Clue, and it has Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley in there. Michael Caine is an actor he's an actor in the movie who plays Sherlock Holmes, the character that Ben Kingsley's character, Dr. Watson, has created. And they wanted to meet Sherlock Holmes. So he hired this actor to play the role. And Sherlock Holmes, and if I recommend going and seeing the movie. It is a great comedy. Some of my favorite lines in there is that, Michael Caine's walking along in his Sherlock Holmes outfit, and he goes, and Ben Kingsley's walking beside him with his head down, looking at the ground, his notebook in hand and pen, and Michael Caine's walking around going, "What are we doing?" And Ben Kingsley goes, "Looking for clues." "Oh, let me know when we find some." I just like, it's got these little sharp one-liners in there, and Michael Caine's character, his actor character, is a drunk as well. So there's all of that comes into play as well. It's just it's called Without a Clue, and it works on the assumption that Sherlock Holmes was just a character that Dr. Watson created and had to find somebody to play the character because people wanted to meet Sherlock Holmes. They didn't want anything to do with Dr. Watson. So really cool movie if you get a chance to watch it. So I'm looking forward to reading this book. It's a very big book. It's got over 600 pages in it, so that'll take me a little bit. But what are some of the benefits of reading? Well, it enhances your cognitive function. It stimulates areas of the brain responsible for concentration, critical thinking, and memory retention. This mental engagement helps the brain sharp and can helps keep the brain sharp and can even slow cognitive decline in older adults. It may help with that. I love to read. I tell you, I can do a whole. In fact, maybe I'll do that. Because all different topics you can talk about reading. You can improve vocabulary. It's one of those words. Vocab and language skills. I can't get the vocabulary out. You get exposure to a wide range of words and sentence structures from different genres and styles that can enhance your vocab and language comprehension. This improvement is seen in both native and secondhand learners across all formats, including audiobooks. I will tell you this, one of the things that I like with audiobooks is, now, when it comes to fiction, I don't mind having the electronic copy on my Kindle or reading it on my laptop or on my iPad. I don't mind that at all. When it comes to, but the one time that you will definitely, without fail, see me with a physical novel in my hand is when I'm flying. For some reason, when I'm flying, I can't read my Kindle. I don't know what it is. It's just that I can't concentrate on the words on the screen. So I actually have a physical book in my hand. And my process for this is that I go to the airport bookstore at the airport, and I'm looking for James Patterson, David Baldacci, Michael Connelly, Brad Thor. Who's the other one I look for? Totally skipped my mind. But one of those types of books that I can read while I'm on the plane. And if I'm flying down to New Zealand, that book is basically almost finished by the time I get to, in fact, it is finished by the time I get to New Zealand. Because, I've got 2 meals, 2 movies, and a sleep. And sometimes I just read it for a little bit. But yeah, I will read a physical book on a plane. And it will be a novel. The other one is with non-fiction books. With non-fiction books, I actually have to have the physical copy in hand. Then I have my highlighters, my Post-it notes, my pens, and I'm like marking that copy up. It has to be a physical copy that I have purchased myself because I don't like borrowing non-fiction books from other people because I just want to get in there and put my notes in there, put Post-it notes in there, put highlights and everything else in there. I don't have one handy because I cleared out my office the other day, so I can't show you one of my marked up books, but I like to do that. And the other thing that I like to with that I do with nonfiction is quite often I will get the audio version of the nonfiction book, and this is when I will be willing to read a nonfiction book on the computer and take notes along the way. But the reason I like to listen to an audiobook while reading it is that it helps me learn a lot better. I'm a very kinesthetic. I've got a tactile, got to have my tactile thing. So I'm very kinesthetic in my learning, which is both audio and visual and touch, which is why I like the physical books. But I like to listen to the audio books while I read the physical book as well. And most of the time I can get through the books fairly quickly if I'm listening to them, and I'm retaining the stuff a lot better than if I'm just reading the book or just listening to it. There's something about the connection between reading the words while you're listening to the words that helps you retain information better. And you also get through the books a lot faster as well. Yes, I've tried those. There's those apps out there like Blinkist where they have people that go through and will condense the book down into very short 15-minute things where you can read through a book in 15 minutes. Here's my problem with that one. I then want to go and read the full book. If I had Blinkist for a while, and the problem with that is I would be reading a book and it's just these short condensed things. And I'm like, I got to go read the full book. And that's what happened with that one. And so I was sort of like, yeah, it would give me a taste of the book. Do I want to go read it? Yes, let's go get the book and read it and read the full story and everything else. But yeah, love reading. You can increase your knowledge and learning while you're doing that with the nonfiction ones. And some fiction can be based on true events. And they've fictionized the story a bit, one, to protect the people that were involved in the event, and two, because sometimes they can't quite remember most of what happened. So that's easier for them to tell it as a fictional story. I've got a book in my family history that was written by my great-grandmother, and she wrote the story, and the rumor is that it was based on her own life. It was a fictional story that she wrote based on her own life. So it gives you some insight into people when they do fiction books based on true events. But with nonfiction books, you've got specialized knowledge, offering insights into various fields. And the fiction books will also can also inform and educate you indirectly, offering historical context, cultural insights, and psychological perspectives. So when you're reading a book, especially if I'm reading like a historical one place in a history novel, and they're talking about specific events, I will stop reading and go look up some of those historical events that they mention, just to see how true is the author to that historical time or to that event in history that took place. So yeah, I like to go and, I guess, check the details a little more. And I found that most of the authors that I read, they are if they're writing historical books, historical novels, they're very close, they're very much into that historical period, and they know that period very well. So that makes it even better. It's empathy and emotional intelligence. So fiction especially enables readers to live vicariously through characters experiencing a range of emotions and situations. And this builds empathy and understanding for other experiences and emotions. It can also help you when you're out with others. You can recall how a character dealt with a situation. Let's see if it will work in real life. Not all of them, though, because some of them are, it depends on what type of book you're reading. But I know that I will... I have this series of books that I've read the first 25 books, and the author writes a very humorous book. And so I read up to book 25, and for the first time in 25 books, she left us with a major cliffhanger. She had never done that before, but she left us with a major cliffhanger. And so we were like, when's book 26 coming out? And it was supposed, I think if memory serves correct, it was supposed to be the beginning of this year. But she then went and had this major accident, which has prevented her from sitting at a computer and working. She has been able to do some artwork, though, while resting and things like that. And she's been posting that into her Facebook group. But it's a very active Facebook group. And so when she left this cliffhanger, we're like, please recover, please get well soon. But she's slowly recovering. And so the book will maybe later this year or the following year. And people are going, but we want to know what happened to this character that you've left this big cliffhanger on. So she comes in and tells us this character is fine. Don't panic. They're fine. So we're sort of like, whew. But I will tell you this. In the meantime, my brain has been going like overtime, like, okay, this is the situation. How are they going to get out of this situation? What are they going to do? How's it going to happen? How's this main character how's this main character going to be involved in this and we know that the person's going to be fine. So how is that person going to be involved with rescuing this person? Or, and my brain's just been going through all these different ideas and thoughts and things. And it just helps spark the creativity when you're left with things like that. And there are times that I've had to, I've been reading a book, and I have books that I read at night on my e-reader, although they tell you should actually read a physical book. But I'm just sort of like, no, because the e-reader is easier to read at night, because otherwise I'm going to have the bed lamp on an angle so I can read the book. Or have a lamp. Yeah, I'm just sort of like too much. So I just got the Kindle with the backlit thing on it, which works perfectly for me. So I read that at night before I go to sleep. In the morning, I have different books that I read, more on self-development. And that's on self-development. And then during the day, on business books. And sometimes in the evening when I'm relaxing, like like sitting in the family room relaxing in the evening, if I don't want the TV on, I may put the audiobook on. I always have an audiobook going when I'm eating because to me it's just company. The dog's there and I am teaching Zeffie not to beg when I eat. So she'll come and sit at the table and she'll sit on the floor by the table next to me and she'll just look at me. And every now and again you'll hear this, and I'm like, no begging, go lay down. And then I call her to come and get her little tidbits. She gets a little tidbit and then I direct her back to him, back to go lay down again. And so she will do that. So she is learning that she can't sit at the table and beg. But I will have an audiobook going on while I'm doing that. I have audiobooks going when I drive, but they're always fiction. Because the problem I find with nonfiction books is that if I'm listening to them, I want to take notes as I'm listening to them, and I can't take notes and drive at the same time. So it's always fiction books, and usually action. I love action. I will read just about anything. I will not read horror. I won't read most sci-fi. I don't read, and most fantasy I don't read. But just about every genre I will read. I've been known to read young adult books just to keep up with my nephews when they were younger. They're now, the oldest one's 30. Hang on. Yeah, the oldest one's in his 30s now. So, it was a while ago when he was a young adult. And so it gave us something to talk about. So we could talk books and talk plots and things like that. But it also gave me too, when he's reading a series, I could then send him from here in the States, send a book to him through Amazon down to New Zealand, and he would have the next book in the series to read. And I would get 2 copies, one come to me, one would go to him. So we had something in common to talk about and things like that. So it's, it's a way of communicating with other people. It gives you something in common to talk about if you're talking with books. So it can help social skills as well, because if you belong to a book club, whether the book club is virtual or whether it is in person, you're communicating with others, talking about a book that you have in common. I have a mystery book club, which I haven't been to for a while because the Saturdays just aren't working out for me, which is unfortunate because it's a great group of people. But it's a mystery book club, so we read different mysteries, and then we get together and we talk about the mysteries. Did you feel this was a true mystery book, or do you think it was something that was kind of a mystery involved in there, but this was the main genre that was going through the book? So things like that. And then you get books that have been turned into movies that have then had books written. So you've got books based on movies, and you've got movies based on books. They go both ways. Some movies are out there where there was no book prior, but it was such a good movie that somebody sat down and actually wrote it as a novel, and that way they were able to include more details that were not available to put into the movie. One of my favorite series right now is the Reacher series, which is available on Amazon Prime, and this is based on the Jack Reacher books by Lee Childs, and I have to say, they are awesome. We just finished season 2. They're wrapping up filming. I think they have just wrapped up or about to wrap up filming season 3, which they actually started filming before season 2 came out, which is kind of quite cool. But they haven't released which book it's based on, and they've actually done a really good job. And in the first season, season 1, they did. There's actually some novellas that are written for the Jack Reacher series that give you insights to him as a child and growing up, and insights to him as an adult when he was in the military and things like that, that they have incorporated into, they incorporated those flashbacks to those novellas in season 1. So you got to know him better as a character and what he was like as a child and what his childhood was like to who he is now. And he kind of had the same sort of attitude. It was just really cool. And so the way they incorporated those novellas into these flashbacks was really cool. And so you got that insight. So if you are watching the Reacher series, please go back and watch the first one in the season 1 of Reacher on Prime, because it gives you a bit of his background and everything else. And then that was based on the first book, The Killing Fields. And then season 2 is based on book 11. What was book 11? Bad Trouble. Can't remember the name of book 11. But it's based on book 11, and in the TV series, they've stayed pretty true to the books, but little pieces in here that weren't in the books, which is fine. They needed to do that for the storyline. That's okay. Or improve the storyline and things. So I love it when you get books like that. Now with Lord of the Rings, another one series that has been taken from book to movie. I have never read the books. Brad, my late husband, he had read all the Lord of the Rings books. He's read all the Hobbit. He's read the Hobbit. He's read a whole bunch of books. And we went to see Somebody's having dreams. We went to see the first one, and my cousin from New Zealand happened to be visiting with his then girlfriend. And so we went to see the movies. Now, she had started reading the first book. My cousin and Brad had both read the first book. I knew nothing about the books at all. I had not read them, but we went along. So you had different perspectives on the movie. And when we got out of there, I knew that Jeff and Brad had read the books. And so I asked them, I says, how do these compare to the books? And they said, it was actually pretty good. And they really enjoyed the movies. And and my cousin's girlfriend said that based on how much she had read of the books, she liked the movie as well. And they said, well, and I said, well, I've never read the books and I thought the movies were great. So 3 different perspectives on people who had read, partly read, or not read. So you can get those people too that have never read the books, but they enjoy the movies. And sometimes I'll watch a movie and I find out it's based on a book, and I may go back and read the book, or I may not. I might just say, nope, I'm just going to let it lie as it was as a movie. But so books are great for entertainment because there's so many different genres out there and so many different styles of writing. Every writer has their own style of writing. And when you read as much as I do, you kind of, and especially if you get into a series that these writers have, you can start to pick out their style of writing, and you can pick, and sometimes you can pick if they have a guest writer in there as well, or if somebody, if one of the authors has passed and they now bring in another writer, are they writing the same as what the original writer wrote? I'm trying to think of, is it the Vince Flynn books? I think the Vince Flynn books with Mitch Rapp as the main character. I think those ones where the author passed away and somebody's now writing those books is now taken over. I think it's those ones. I may be wrong on that one, so don't quote me. But knowing that they can find writers who write in a very similar style, that you may notice a slight difference or you may not. The latest Jack Reacher books that have come out, he's now co-writing. Lee Childs is now co-writing with his son Andrew Childs. And I think Andrew Childs is going to take over when Lee finally retires, or maybe when he passes away, we'll still have that Reacher character going on. And some people have complained about the writing. I'm sort of like, seems the same to me. I haven't really noticed any difference. So some people do, some people don't. Ebooks, audiobooks are accessible, very accessible. And I love audiobooks because I can do other things. I'm one of these people who've got to keep my hands busy playing with my Slinky again. So ebooks, I like yesterday. All I did yesterday on my rest and relaxation day, if you didn't see us on the live yesterday, I basically planted myself down. I had my iPad in front of me and I was doing coloring. I was on the coloring apps. I was on the Royal Match, playing Royal Match. I was playing Code Words. I was switching between the different games on the iPad. And the whole time I had audiobooks going. And I got through book 1 of a series that I'm listening to, and now almost done with book 2 in that series. So yeah, I love audiobooks. And I was just a complete rest and relaxation day. And so the other one is, I'm just looking at my list of bullet points to talk about. You can actually improve your writing skills because of reading, because you often develop a stronger grasp of language and narrative structure when you can translate into your own writing. This includes a better sense of grammar, varied vocab, and storytelling techniques. And I will have to say, pretty much, yep, if I'm stuck and I don't have my, what's the name of that reference book? There's a reference book that tells you how to write things. The Chicago style of writing, where in there it talks about punctuation, and in the area where it talks about punctuation in that, I will pick up a couple of books and just compare. How did they do the speech in there? How did they, coming into a conversation, how did they write the conversation out? And I may end up not copying the words, but copying the style. That, the commas here, open quotations, close quotations. This is where the punctuation goes. So I have done that in the past, where I've looked to see the sentence structure when you're using conversations in a piece. So yeah, it has helped improve my writing. And the other thing that helped improve my writing is when I was living in San Diego, I was part of a writers group, and we would meet every Tuesday. Dang. We had a night that we would meet every week, so Tuesday or Thursdays, and we would meet every night. Probably it was Wednesday. Sorry. We would meet on a weeknight every week, and we would go in there with what we had written during the week, and we would have enough copies for everybody else. They had to be double spaced. It was limited on how many words you could have. And then we would all get a copy handed to us, and then the person who wrote it would read it out, and they're making changes in there as they're reading it, because hearing it out loud makes it sound so different than just reading it. And then we're all making corrections on the copies in front of us as well. And we put our name at the top. So if the person then has any questions afterwards, they can come back to us and ask us about what we've written on there. But that was really, really good. It was got a lot of good stuff. I found some new authors to read as well. Some were writing fiction, some were writing nonfiction, some were writing magazine articles. So it was all different types of writing. I was working on nonfiction stuff as well as fictional stuff. Somehow in my first chapter of my first novel that I have still started, I made the weather the main character, and I was like, I don't know how I did that, but okay, I can put the weather as a secondary character. It's not a problem. But my what do they call it? Flash fiction. My short story piece, they said, was one of the best pieces that I had written in the entire time that I had been in the group, and they all loved it. And some of them made some suggestions to get it down to around 300 words, which is called flash fiction. So you can tell a story in 300 words. And I went back and I took in all of the feedback, because we then sit and discuss the piece afterwards before moving on to the next piece. And I took back all their feedback, all their comments and everything else. I went in there, I made changes where it actually enhanced the story rather than take away from the story, even though I took out about 250 words, I think it was, I removed. So it actually condensed the story down. And to me, it made it sound better. And they loved the final piece, absolutely loved the final piece, and said it was one of my best pieces of writing that they had ever heard me do. And they'd heard me read some really good pieces, but they said, this is the best that you have ever written. And I was like, kind of like that. So I might dig that piece out and read it to you guys one night. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow night, because I'm kind of going to keep the reading thing going this week, I think. Yes, we might do that. I don't know. I haven't decided. What do you guys think? Do you think I should keep the reading thing going this week, talking about books and movies, and books to movies, movies to books, books in general? I can do that. I can talk books. I can talk books. I like the classics too. I like some of the classics as well. So I will read those. But anyway, that's about it from us for this evening. Hope you all have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Until then, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. He konera.